And this is a very expensive car. This is worth $27 million the last time it was sold. And Denise McCluggage, and I don't recall her co-driver. I don't recall. And it was so valuable that we left it out in the snow with the top down. And this has a little story, because if you look at the LM on the left, you'll see that it has a lot of salt on it. And the idea was we had to take it from New York to the Chicago Motor Show in February, and we didn't have transporter. So I drove it to Chicago in the snow on Goodyear Blue Street racing tires. And it had no windshield wiper. Again, no heater, just to be consistent. And we made it, but the salt proves the story. And this is when we Dad picked up a short wheelbase Berlin on the way to Le Mans. And this is going through a little town, and the kids clearly liked that, the whole deal.
That's pretty cool.
You're doing pretty well. And this is an Oscar that we had at Le Mans. And the good part about that is you see all the kids, but if you look at the woman that's behind the blinds in the apartment there, she looks a little apprehensive about the whole thing as to what are they doing there. And this is Sterling Moss when he drove for us. And this is a picture I took of the Mans car that won with us in 1965 with Jochen Rindt and Maston Gregory. And that's toward the end of the race. And they had a lot of people at Indy, but this is right after Le Mans. And I think that's a fair number of folks. And that's the car that you saw a minute ago with the kids. So Dad drove it to Le Mans, it did the race, and then we drove the car back to Modena. And you can see it's a little dirtier than when it came out. But those cars were really reliable, and they were just wonderful cars. Now this is Bandini at Sebring. We never figured out what that goddamn wrench was. I mean, that's a big wrench. He was serious. Look at the look on his face. And this is a 275P that we sold to this fellow from Louisiana who had just bought the car. And he drove it from there in the shop in New York, West 19th Street, all the way to Louisiana in a full race car. They were reliable. And this is Dino Ferrari writing to Dad, thank you for a card and wishes to your family, and he died shortly after. I thought you weren't going to show
I
that.
couldn't get it out of there.
Oh,
We're going to your dad.
well, the other one is when I crashed into my driveway.
His dad was very serious.
And this is Dad coming back from Le Mans at one point, or another car. And he was in his 70s or close to 80. So he was pretty serious even on the road. And this is Ricardo Rodriguez in a 6-cylinder 246 Dino at Sebring. They were just wonderful. And this is when they won at Monterrey in Paris, and they had all the little Mexican singers driving. And you see Pedro on the right, Ricardo on the left, and Dad with his little hat. And that's him congratulating Pedro after the same victory. And this is a picture I took that I really like, because right after Pedro and he won at Daytona, I think it was a 2,000 kilometer at Daytona as part of a challenge between Le Mans and Daytona. And if you look at Peter, you can even see Phil's teeth. He had a good dentist. And this is Pedro after he won. And I think that was at Daytona. Pedretti was in the back. But they were kids, but they drove awfully damn well. And this is Ricardo Pedro getting fitted out for a 4.1 liter. I don't recall where that, I think it was Sebring. And you get Cilingardi on the right and Pedretti on the left. and these were the factory fellows. They were geniuses, to be kind, and Pedro was obviously adjusting the steering wheel. And he never had a hair out of place. Ever. Never happened. But the serious look was always there too. And I don't know what he was telling Graham Hill, but clearly he was telling him something to do with the race, and he was serious too. And the two of them together were leading the race when the refueling fellow did it one lap early, and they were disqualified. But those two made a hell of a combination. And again, Pedro and Ricardo, and that was in Paris. And that was at Daytona when Pedro was they won the race, and that's his nephew, who's a little smaller than the trophy. And that's the same race, and Pedro, having won, is another trophy. And this is him again. In fact, do I have a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. When he was driving, when I was driving at Daytona for the 3 years of the LM, and he was driving in the 917, I think, and I spun right in front of him. So during the stop, I was walking behind the pits, and my second wife was with me, and then Pedro was coming up, and he said, "You no worry about your mirror. I find a way to get around it." And you can look at the look on Ricardo's face, and he was really serious and really good. And that's him when he was driving for us at Watkins Glen. I don't recall a year, but that was with the 3-liter, but I don't recall a year. And this is when we had delivered a car to that fellow in the helmet who was Mr. Gibbs. And Mr. Gibbs had a company called Gibbs and Cox. They designed the Forrestal, the Missouri, I think it was the SS United States. They were just simply the best naval architects in the world. And he drove it on the street, by the way. On the left, you have Kitty, Mr. Ferrari in the middle, and Dad on the right. And Mr. Ferrari, they really liked each other. I mean, it was just a wonderful time. And this is a wonderful shot that I took of Fireball Roberts on the right and Dan Gurney on the left. And I think Fireball was telling him about the banking at Daytona. And Fireball was they said, he'll never be able to drive a GTO. What the hell, he's got a gear shift and all. No problem whatsoever. And he was one of the champions of NASCAR. He's just spectacular. And Lynn will appreciate this picture because that car belonged to Denise McCluggage. And this was in front of the fountain at the Feeney Hotel, which Joanne will probably remember easily enough. And that's a great picture. Italy on wheels. Well, I got cut off, but anyway, this is that in Paris. And that's Mr. Fagani and his wife. And they were just wonderful. And he was just a magical fellow.
And this is the same car that you saw that had just been driven to the race at Le Mans, won the race, and then driven home.
And that's on the way back from Paris.
And Mr. Fagoni, for those of you who like classic European cars, Fagoni Fallaci, there he is.
And Fagoni was maybe okay, now these two, anybody recognize any of these two? Okay, Miles Davis and
Sammy Davis Jr.
in our showroom in New York. And this is Alan Cannell at Elkhart Lake, racing in the 4.1 liter, Road America. And I took that and I was lucky enough to get everybody more or less in focus. And this is the same car that later on that was stuck at the pier in Manhattan it was owed $1,000 to the customs. Nobody wanted the car, and this fellow Gordon Tatum bought the car for $1,000 in 1960. What was it?
1963.
In 63. So you can tell how much. And this is the one that was 20 something.
Yeah.
And this is the one that won Pebble Beach 2 years ago. Okay, and this is Laura Ferrari writing to my mother. And this is And you'll see Elizabeth Arden, and she writes to my mother saying, if she would get some things from Elizabeth Arden to make an ugly woman attractive. And this I took shortly after we won Le Mans with oops, hey, you're going a little too quick.
Sorry.
And that's Maston Gregory and Jochen Rindt on the right. Anybody recognize who?
Jane Mansfield.
Boom, boom. Good one.
Yeah, Jane Mansfield. And
Sorry. Here we go.
well, that's Sterling Moss complaining why he only got $800 for driving at Daytona. And the prize money was $1,000, 10% went to the mechanics, and you'll be able to see up there how he got down to the money he got. He was upset. And this, oh yeah, that's Steve McQueen wanting more carburetors. Oh, this is funny, because this was a 312P that I was driving at Daytona, Sebring now, and that's my mother on the left. And she said before I took off, she said, now look, don't drive too quickly. And I told her, well, that's basically the idea of the whole exercise. And this is when I was associated with Bob Peake, who was the illustrator who did Apocalypse Now, My Fair Lady, Funny Girl. He was the best illustrator. He had more time covers, more elements. He was the best in America. And that was the result of the car. And that's the car, the two of us at the Customs Pier. And I didn't realize that car was so low until we got the pictures of it. And this is my little car at Le Mans. And we started 52nd on the grid and finished 5th. But Pierre-Louis Dreyfus, who was the great-grandfather of the gal who was on TV in the sitcom, but I don't know, whatever. Julia Dreyfus.
Julia Dreyfus.
Yeah, and so we ended up finishing 5th, two 512s and two 917s ahead of us. And this is Dad talking to me about Le Mans. And this is when I was thin, so just bear that in mind when you see me now. And that was Dad at Le Mans. When he was at Le Mans, he was home. That was his bailiwick. That was it. And this is the last, when I just ended the race. You're doing well over there. Well, you got the idea. And that's when we just went into it.
He's smiling from the driver's seat with the door open. Everybody just had
Oh,
a
yeah.
great result.
I was pretty pleased. That was pretty good. And this is used car lot at Chinetti Motors. And this is the inside. This is the used car lot. This is the dead storage, if you want.
Can you imagine?
And that was another part, the used car lot in front of the Chinetti Motors in Connecticut. And that was when we went to Bonneville, which was my idea. And because I always wanted to do records because Dad did that in Europe. And so we had to go and get sponsors. And we had Chippewa Ponds, we had CBS, and we had, hey,
I'm sticking with it.
will you put your foot on the brake? And that was Graham Hill. And I signed a contract that said if we didn't break a record, we gave him back the damn money. And we went to Bonneville, and the coder we got Paul Newman, and the bar fellow in Connecticut said, why don't you get Paul Newman? I said, I don't know. He said, I do. And we went up to his door, and Joanne Woodward came to the door, and I said, you think Paul would like to go to Bonneville? She said, I don't know, why not? And he showed up at Bonneville. And this was that's Paul Newman and I at Bonneville. And this was when I had the 512 when I was driving around. And I guess I ran over a surveyor's nail because it was a big oval, it was a 10-mile oval, and it was not particularly smooth either. And I blew the tire out, and it took out the oil tank, it took out the tire. But we managed to finish the next day. And this is the contract, and it really does say, we'll give you back the money if we don't beat a record. And when I beat and I actually was in the car when we beat the record, everybody breathed a big sigh. And this is King Sam Posey, which came from Burger King. Hey! And, yeah, but you're going backwards. Okay, and that's myself and Bob Grossman. And this is my same little car at Daytona, well, the 24-hour race. And it had a little bit of a clutch problem. And we still finished 7th or something like that. But the 312 was indestructible as far as concerns the engine. Now this is the first time I was leading the other 2 cars, because you've got me, and you've got Sam Posey, and me go maybe. And if you notice, the cars are a little different. Number 22, we borrowed a little trick out of the NASCAR. We slowed the whole damn car. And that was a hell of a lot lower than the other 2 cars. And to compensate for the nose, we jacked the tail up. It was much faster. And this is another car. This was a 512S at Daytona with a little bit of the missing bodywork. And Dad's looking over it and wondering, oh, what happened? Oh, this is it was got a lot inside. You know, an Alpha 2.9 on the right, a 3-seater on the left, a 1750 on the right, a 1500 Alpha. Now this is really expensive because that Alpha is worth probably 30 million or more today. And that was a wonderful car. And this is Sam with the 512, and I think they took the picture at Line Rock. And this is Laura Ferrari writing to my mother and and I loved her. Everybody said she was just crazy, like a fox. And this is a picture I took of her at Le Mans with her little dog in the pits of Le Mans. And if you look at her face, this is not a crazy woman. And this was the 3.8. This was a very valuable car, but at that time it was probably worth $1,500. And this is the Alpha that was in the shop a moment ago with Dad and I. 2.9 double supercharged touring body with the skirts in the back. That was a magical car. And this was a car I designed in the mid-70s on a 365 chassis. And this is a car that nobody understands at all. But it's basically a Daytona wagon with you could access the back from the side. And Bill Mitchell at GM liked it, and he copied it. And when I saw him, the car copied at a show, it was on a Pontiac Firebird, and I called him, I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I like the idea, so I copied it." And this is Dad must have been in the mid-'80s with a box of Berlinetta. And as a tribute to my mother, he had the Marion Chinetti special. And this is when I drove with my buddy Jacques Boucher in a recreation of the Mille. And my wife saved his ass because at the show, and at the dinner, he pissed in a champagne bucket. And they were calling the cops. And my wife took him by the scruff of the neck and just got him out of there. But he'd still be in jail. And this is the year plate of the Le Mans 24-hour race. And this is the only time Dad really did a compliment. He said, for the very nice race of Coco, which is me, all the congratulations from his father, 1993. I treasure that one. And this is the list of drivers that drove for us through the years. And it's a fairly representative.
Any recognizable names there?
Yeah, there were a few. And that was Dad's home garage. He was very happy, but that was a nice garage. And this was two 275Ps that I scored in Connecticut, in Italy. And one of them I burned to the ground in San Shelby. So, and we rebuilt it, it's new.
Just about done here.
And this was a 288 that I had to go to Le Mans with, and this was at the Gatto, up in the mountains behind Modena. And it was pretty dirty, and everybody said, boy, that's a wonderful car. Piece of crap. Now, the F40 was a magical car. And this is the 50th anniversary of Ferrari. And this was Laura next to me, and I just drove him around town. And then I was going to the racetrack up there because they had Pink Floyd doing the festivities. And he didn't want to come with me. And the test drivers used to go from Modena to Maranello on this racetrack. And Joanne will remember there's a church with black and white stripes on it. And I said, if you're going to die, you're going to die. And the track going out where everybody used to run, I had that thing almost, really quick. Oh, it was fast. I was happier than a pig in shit. And this is Dad with Piero Ferrari, his first wife, who Joanne reminded me of his name, but I forgot. Absolutely no idea who she was.
So Luigi, our time has come to an end here. We're going to flip over to Lynn St. James and Joanne Villeneuve.